Hi, hello everyone. Uh, Good evening, good morning, depending on where you are. Um, you know, uh, Thank you for joining us. So hope you guys doing well. So uh, today, we prepared this live, very informal event to provide you guys a preview of this little thing here, the Super Game Module 2. Um, and again, it's gonna be very formal. We're gonna be playing some games here. I can, answer questions. We can talk about anything that's game related. Very informal. But anyways, before we get started, let me just, explain a little bit about this and introduce you guys about, a little bit about this, the Super Game Module. So, first of all, you guys, can you hear me? Okay, it's my first live ever, so sorry. I hope you guys are can hear me. Um, so guys, is my audio okay? Is my audio okay? Can you hear me? Yeah, awesome. Thank you. All right. So again, this is the Super Game Module 2, and let me quickly just talk a little bit about this before we get started. So so all of you can understand what you're gonna be doing here tonight or today. Um, so you know, you may be familiar with the Super Game Module 1. The Super Game Module 1 is a expansion module for the ColecoVision, where basically we had extra memory for the system, and we had an extra sound chip, basically to double the sound channels available for the ColecoVision. And pretty much that was the Super Game Module 1, right? And the Super Game Module 1 was a big thing with the ColecoVision. Uh, I think we got like I don't know anymore. More than 100 games supporting that device. So we thought that now is a good time to introduce the next, hopefully next big thing, and this is the Super Game Module 2. So the Super Game Module 2, first of all, is you know more or less fully backward compatible with the Super Game Module 1, so you can play all the Uh, yeah, sorry, I was not paying attention to the to the message here. Okay, good. Sounds good. Okay. Um, so it's backward compatible, which means that it can perform all the functions of the Super Game Module 1. Um, and but it has many new features. It's a much more powerful device now. So first of all, at the heart of the Super Game Module 2 is this guy here, which is a custom video and sound chip. And this is, we call this the VSC1. It is backward compatible with the ColecoVision video chip, the ColecoVision sound chip, and the Super Game Module 1 sound chip. But in addition to that, it adds a lot of new features. It has new graphic modes, much more powerful sprites, all sort of features that are missing from the original ColecoVision, like for example, hardware scrolling, color palettes, all sort of things. And also, the audio is much more powerful. I have a lot more sound channels. Now I can do waveforms. Very nice stuff. Okay. Um, because all the video and audio processing is done here, uh, it means that the output of this thing is totally digital. And because of that, we can output HDMI. So that means that basically you can play any ColecoVision game, either Legacy, Super Game Module 1, whatever. It doesn't matter. Any ColecoVision game you can play using HDMI output. And that's what we're going to be doing tonight. All right. Um, In addition to that, there are other two main components in this thing. We have an SD card slot, so you can use this for loading ROMs, or I don't know, maybe saving game profiles, or all sort of ideas, uh, updating the firmware. I don't know, all sort of things. And in addition to that, we have Wi-Fi connection. So with this thing, you can connect to the online, and basically with that you can do all sort of things. For example, we could upload your high scores to a central database where everybody can share high scores. You could download ROMs for new games. You could download demos for new games. And one very nice feature. This is our cartridge. We call this the Super Game cartridge. Um, and if you have a game that uses this with the Super Game Module 2, you can upgrade your game in case a fix or improvement is released for this game. So to do that, very easy. You just plug in your cartridge in this game, your ColecoVision console. You plug in your Super Game Module 2, and then you're gonna download any updates or anything, and the Super Game Module 2 is gonna refresh your game, so you get a latest version, right? So no need for doing recalls and things like that anymore. And we can always add new features. For example, let's say this game here, we could say, oh, let's add support to some of the Super Game Audio 2 functions, like better sound or better graphics, whatever. We can do that, and you can flash your existing cartridge, and you get all the benefits. Um, yes, I see the question about will we have support for license so you can use ROMs. That's one of the main things we're planning. So we planning a sort of um, online service, for example, where basically you can purchase ROMs from there, especially people living outside the US, or in our case now maybe even leaving the US. Um, if it's too cost prohibitive to buy a physical cartridge, you're going to pay a lot for shipping, you know, tariffs, etc. You could buy digital ROM, and you can download from online, from our online service, basically. So yes, that's an option. And this thing, each device has a unique ID, so it's tied to the device. Let's see what else we have here. Yes, lots of opportunities for much more uh, expanded gameplay. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, we could have all sort of fun things. Um, One example, let's say that we announce a new game. Say we're gonna release this game, okay, in I don't know 6 months, and we have, for example, pre-orders for the game. So one option that could have is, okay, the game is still being it's not complete. It's still under development, but how about we make preview available for people that are uh, pre-ordering the game. That's that's an option. That's going to be one option, for example. Um, okay, there's another question here. So if it refreshes, will the original Super Game module still be able? Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's not a problem. It's not tied to eh, all the game data is in the cartridge. It's not like modern consoles where when, for example, you download patches, the patches in the console memory somewhere. while the game is in the CD or cart or whatever. No, that's not the case. Okay, the game is still here. So, you know, it doesn't make much sense, for example, to release a patch that makes your game that's Super Game Module uncompatible. Make that not no longer Super Game Module uncompatible. I don't see a case for that. So yes, you could still run. So eventually, what I suppose is going to happen is either because we're going to release upgrades, or because eventually just start releasing games that actually already support the Super Game Module 2. Probably you're going to have, like, I don't know, two modes or something like that. So if you're using Super Game Module 1, you can play the game using regular ColecoVision graphics and sounds or whatever. If you have Super Game Module 2, for example, you get enhancements, and the system is gonna just run as using Super Game Module 2 um, mode or something like that. Any plans to introduce online multiplayer? That's a question you get a lot. We'll see. I mean, we don't have any plans right now because I believe that, well, first, this thing is still in beta, okay? And second, I don't know. I mean, it's to have a good online infrastructure, I suppose it's gonna uh, take a while. So, to be very honest with you, our plan is to do something like this. We probably gonna offer this thing initially. We sort of bare minimum interface, because if you think about, especially because you have the SD card and Wi-Fi, the number of functions this thing could have is just is quite large. So what I'm planning to do is probably release this with sort of bare minimum capabilities. So we can have some sort of access to the SD card, basic stuff, and also some sort of access to some online functionality. But if the idea is, you know grow those things with time. So getting a better uh, you know online services, start adding more and more stuff there, and so on. Okay. All right. Awesome. Yeah. More. So yeah. Multiplayer, it could happen eventually, I guess. But the thing is, that would require people playing using Super Game Module 2. So the the, the truth is, so far we have almost 4,000 Super Game Modules, Super Game Module 1s out there. Uh, and because of that, I mean, we cannot just release this and say, okay, so moving forward, we are only supporting Super Game Module 2 or something like that. That's not going to happen, right? So we need to keep, of course, supporting the Super Game Module 1, because by far it's a huge install base. But eventually, depending on how the install base of the Super Game Module 2 grows, I suppose eventually you're going to start seeing stuff that's exclusive to the Super Game Module 2. All right. So I don't want to keep talking for too long. It's 20 minutes already. So I don't know. Let's start doing some gaming here, okay? So let's see. I think I'm gonna start actually with some legacy stuff. So let me get something here. Um, how about we do this? So here is I have here Mr. Do, the class game for the by Coleco, for the ColecoVision, okay? And so I'm gonna play this using the Super Game Module 2 here. So I'm sorry, I don't have. I probably cannot show you But I have here, it's a real ColecoVision, and I have one of those. This is a pilot run, so we have several of those PCBs. So I have one here connected. Actually, maybe I can show you, just in case you don't believe me. there you are. See, this is a ColecoVision Super Game Audio 2, and here we have the HDMI cable, right? So what I'm gonna do now is, I put this back. I'm gonna start this game here. So let's see. So I'm gonna resize my video here, and I hope you guys can see, the game. So this is running using the Super Game Audio 2. I'm capturing this, of course, through HDMI, right? All right, so let's get started. I know I'm a very good player at this, and I don't want to keep playing this for too long, but I hope you guys are getting audio of this. To be honest, I didn't test that, so hope you can hear the game audio. Oops. There you go. Oop. Actually, I should be looking that way because I'm getting some delay looking at this screen here. Anyways, I forgot to mention that, but one benefit, in addition to HDMI, one benefit you get from playing this using the Super Game Audio 2. The sound of the game is too loud. Oh, I see. How? Okay, sorry. Let's see. What is the audio for that? It's probably here. How about now? It's better now? Okay. Hope it's not too loud now. It's good. Okay, perfect. Yeah. Graz, she came here to tell me that the game audio was too loud. All right. Anyways, another benefit of using the Super Game Audio 2 to play those legacy games is that you don't get sprite flickering anymore. You can have all 32 sprites in the same scan line in legacy mode. For Super Game Audio 2 games, actually you have a lot more sprites than that. We have 64 sprites now, and they're all multicolor. So what you're seeing here is totally legacy mode. Anyways, I think you're good, right? Awesome. So that was Mr. Do. Let's try something else. Let's try any games you guys like to see. Any suggestions for next game? We can play. Well, how about this? We can play. I like this game, Zaxxon. Let's play that one. Again, not a very good player, but Time Pilot. Which one? The old one or the new one? Yeah, that's a good question regarding the video frequency for PAL consoles. Interesting question. I suppose that everything's gonna run at 60 hertz. because that's the frequency, that the Super Game Module 2 is outputting. Um, and actually, because the Super Game Module 2 video chip replaces the ColecoVision video chip, it means that, as I understand, and I'm sorry, and I actually never tested with. That's one thing we need to test. Um, but because it replaced the video chip, and now it's the Super Game Module 2 actually generating the video. I suppose that everything's gonna run at 60 hertz. Um, all right. Yeah, right. Um, okay, let's try this one. Let's see. Oh, oops. As I said, it has been a while since I played those games. It's a funny thing that I was doing streaming a couple of weeks ago with Papa Pete, and he invited me to play ColecoVision, which is actually I don't play much of those old games just because this is my job now. So I spend my day uh, playing ColecoVision, and to be honest, by the end of the day, the last thing I want to do is play more ColecoVision. But um, anyways, that's the sad part of making your hobby your job. I wish Graz was here helping me read those with those messages, but I gonna answer any question in a moment. Okay. Um, Let me see if I can get to Zaxxon, and we can stop there. But yeah, again, you see, we have no flickering here, um, and maybe something else you're gonna notice. I don't know if in this game it's more obvious or not, but we actually tweaked the color palette, the default color palette a little bit with the Super Game Audio to get a little better contrast and a little more vibrant colors. But one thing that I was planning to do eventually is release color profiles for most of those classic games. So we could have, for example, some tweak colors specifically for each game, and I don't know. I think that could be fun. All right, so let's see if I remember. I'm supposed to stay like here. Let's see. No. Okay. Anyways, not quite right. All right. So that's Zaxxon. So let's see questions. Yes, yeah, I would love someone with a power console to helping me uh, test. I think that would be great because I don't have one. Um, let's see. Yes, it has its own video chip, and I cannot wait to show you guys what this video chip is capable. Um, but I would say it's somewhere in between. In some ways, it's a little like the NES. In some ways, it's more like the PC Engine TurboGrafx, um, and in one case, it's actually better than those two. But yeah, sound is probably closer to PC Engine, although we have some extra channels for waveform playback, which we, actually, I don't want to get too much technical detail here tonight, but we have two different groups of sound channels for the new sound stuff. Some of those are very simple waveform thing that's very similar to sound of the PC Engine, and some of those channels are more advanced. You can have longer waveforms, and those are good for voices. That's a question that we get a lot. And can this thing do voice? Yeah, it can. It's not like IntelliVoice kind of thing. It's real samples. Um, we could use that for drones, for very advanced sound effects, very complex stuff. So yeah, pretty cool. Um, if you have a super game module one, I don't know. It's up to you. I mean, um, the way I see it is maybe initially for, I mean, for any ColecoVision user, I think that the main benefit, at least initially, would be HDMI output. Now, if you have, for example, your a ColecoVision where installed F18A with some sort of digital output or something, well, maybe that's not a big deal for you. I suppose that with time, Wi-Fi is gonna be a nice thing to have because of all the things we have planned for that. And of course, the also with time, I think it's gonna be nice to have a super game mode too, just because the game's taking advantage of that, and all the graphic stuff that it can do. Now, of course, we also have. I know that we also have all sort of ColecoVision users and people. They have different interests and stuff. So I know, for example, some people are not really too much into homebrews. They're more like, oh, I like to play the originals and stuff like that. So for those, I think the advantage would be, HDMI output, um, to be able to run the games using the SD card slot, for example, so you can download ROMs and run from the SD card. And it would be a all-in-one device for you to do all those kind of things. And I don't know, maybe eventually you could have, I mentioned color profiles for each game, stuff like that, you know, that applies to legacy games. And, for those into homebrews, I don't know, I guess you can also have those that like homebrews, but would say, I I prefer my games to look like ColecoVision. Fine. I mean, you can still play all the Super Game Module One games, but no, now with HDMI and stuff like that, you could have some benefits of online support. And for those that and there are some people there that I know that um, want to see the next big thing in terms of ColecoVision. Perhaps all those new features you're gonna offer that. Let's see. Um, Emulator profile for development. Um, no, actually, that's something that we're working on. We don't have yet because we didn't finish up the specs until recently. It was something that we have been working for a couple years now. But here's the thing. One nice thing when in the homebrew scene, it's very common um, to have people that can make hardware and people that make software, right? And if you're, for example, if you're making hardware, usually you're making hardware for someone else to use, assuming that you're offering something new that's not just I don't know, SD card thing for ColecoVision, something like that. So in those cases, for example, we have the F18A, right? Someone designed that. uh, but I don't think that person's actually making games using that thing. So it's up to other people to come in and create. But the thing is, when you create the hardware, if you're not doing software, you probably have something in your mind like, what should I put here, right? What kind of features are gonna put in this thing? And it's possible that the guy making the software is gonna think, you know, I don't see a use for this. On the other hand, I wish we had this. You see what I mean? So one, hey Jimmy, um, so one I think one nice thing when you're doing both is that you can come with something that works for you, or in this case for me, right? So we have been tweaking this for a couple years, basically to make things easy for us to use. So we're looking for something that, starting with a regular ColecoVision game, how can we expand on that? But you know, it does not require like a totally new coding or something. You know what I mean? Because if you do something that's too different, then you get in the situation where I say, well, either I'm gonna make a game for this device or for this device because they're so different. And if you want to support both together, then it's basically doing the same thing twice, which is a lot of work. So we tried to come up with something that was, in terms of hardware, was starting with the regular ColecoVision. It's very easy to expand to Super Game Module 2 and add those new functions so that, for example, we can create the game with the Super Game Module 1, as our starting point or base, and just add stuff, for those with Super Game Module 2. So that was the goal. Um, yes, regarding would there be a mode to re-enable the flickering? Yes, the one thing that we gonna have in the final product is a UI for the user to change a lot of different things, or configure your online connection, all sort of things, and of course you're gonna put there settings so the for those out there, for those of you that love flickering. I don't mind flickering actually, to be honest. I mean, at least not too much. If you like flickering, you can, yes, you can enable that and put that back. And if the other thing is, some games, they are not going to work properly if you don't have flickering enabled actually. And I know, especially Konami, they had several games like that, including Cabbage Patch Kids. It's one that I remember. But I think Antarctic Adventure also use use flickering actually to do a sort of special effect that if you don't have flickering, that's gonna ruin the effect. Um, all right, how much? Well, we sort of knew that the answer for that not too long ago, but now I have no idea anymore. We we don't know anymore. I not even try to guess that anymore because we don't know. We'll see. You know, originally it, the goal was to have this thing at something like 150 or around that price range, but now I don't know anymore. Um, yeah, if you're still able to use RGB from RGB mode in ColecoVision, yes, you can still use that. However, you're gonna have to remove the Super Game Module 2. Okay, because as I said, when you insert the Super Game Module 2, it basically disable video and sound inside the ColecoVision. The reason for that is because you cannot keep both active at the same time, or you have conflicts. So we have to disable the internal And since Jimmy's here, actually, Jimmy, I don't know if you know, I'm supposed to say that, but Jimmy, we have been working on, I mean, actually, he has been working on, on a solution for those with F18A to be able to use the Super Game Module tool. So since I'm talking about that, let me mention some caveats here quickly. Uh, um, the thing is, the Super Game Module 2 works just fine with a regular ColecoVision. If you have a F18A or some other, those replacement video chips, some of them just they don't work, or they don't work well with the Super Game Module, right? Um, because you cannot properly disable them, let's say. So you get conflicts and the system is not going to work, right? But Jimmy and some other people, they're working on solution for that, and I think it's very promising, right? Right, Jimmy. The results so far is very promising, so they probably should have a solution uh, for that hopefully soon. Um, yes, yeah, he's confirming here. So the circuit is done. So there will be a solution for that. Awesome. The other problem with the Super Game Module 2 is with the add-on. It doesn't like the add-on for a very different reason. And the reason is the Super Game Module 2, it requires a different BIOS to during boot. And so what it does is replace the BIOS inside the ColecoVision as well to have the firmware that we need to activate the whole system. All right. And that works just fine with the ColecoVision because the ColecoVision was prepared for that, to have something like that externally. But the add-on actually, I believe, used that for internally for something, for its own thing. And because of that, you cannot replace the BIOS, which means that it doesn't work with the Coleco add-on. And I don't see a solution for that without, I don't know, a lot of modification. So I don't know. Anyways, let's try something different. Let's more talking. I'm gonna show this next. Let's play a Super Game Module 1 game now. Okay, so this is one of my games. This is a Time Pilot. All right. So let's see. Live stream difficult. Yeah, well, looks good. Let's try this. All right. Fingers crossed. I don't remember if I properly tested this before, but we'll see. Insert credits. Start the game. So again, a nice thing here is no flicking at all. And this game can flick quite a bit sometimes. So you may see something that looks like flickering. For example, when the planes are overlapping with the clouds, but actually that's a side effect of the flickering routine. That's actually multiplexing sprites, so they can all flicker. But it's not flickering actually, because they're not disappearing. It's just the priority is changing. So the plane comes in front of the cloud, and then the cloud comes in front of the plane. I probably saw that there right now. So, but again, it's not disappearing or anything. It's just, if one day I get back to this game and create a proper Super Game Module 2 mode, one thing I could do is, for example, not having this sort of multiplexing. So all objects are in their proper plane without, changing priority relate to other objects. I don't know if that make any sense what I'm saying, but that's the technical explanation for this thing. Oh, there you go. All right. And he's the boss. There you go. Yeah, it's true. Multicolor sprites will reduce. Yes, it will. So the new sprites, they can have three colors, and we have a ton of color palettes that you can use for those new sprites, and you can put 6 of those sprites on screen. Um, you could even use the legacy sprites with those if you want for a total of I don't know 96 sprites or something like that. But anyways, that's beyond the point. Oops. And there come the boss. There you go. All right. So yeah, it works. All right. Graph capabilities. So are we looking at Max with Atari 7800, NES, or Master System in terms of graph capabilities? Well, that's a very good question. As I said, I would say for me, it kind of fits in between the NES and the PC Engine or TurboGrafx. Um, and why I say that? Because you actually have more sprites on screen. Objects are, in most cases, are 3 colors per object. In some cases, you can have eight colors per object. We have a lot more color palettes than the NES offers, and even more than the the Master System offers. More than the 7800. You can put more objects than the 7800 probably can handle. If you count the background scenario, we have better resolution than 7800. But we don't get quite to the level of PC Engine graphics because the PC Engine is 15, 16 colors per object. We don't have that. On the other hand, we can do something that the PC Engine cannot do is we can have 2 independent background planes, and they can scroll independently, and the PC Engine cannot do that. We also have a sort of, if I don't I don't like to call a co-processor because it's not running a program. It's more like we have I'm gonna describe that in simple terms. We have a hardware assistance for changing stuff mid-screen without CPU intervention. So, for example, um, let's say that you want to do a parallax scrolling where one plane has different areas of the plane scrolling at different speeds. Okay, in many systems that requires a lot of CPU intervention. You need to set when it's possible. You need to set interruptions mid-screen. It's very complicated, very CPU intensive in some case. And in our case, it's all done by this co-processor kind of thing, which is not against co-processor. It has you can set a list of changes you want, and say which scan lines where those changes should happen, and the coprocessor are gonna take care of that. Um, do we have more? So I hope that answered the how it compares in terms of graphics. I would say it's definitely better than NES. The Master System also offers 15, 16 colors per object, but the trade-off is that you don't get any more. It's not any more powerful in terms of how it can handle sprites on screen than the NES. Um, in our case, we can handle more, and that's the trade-off we decide to go. I mean, we try to create a hardware that it was possible back in the day around the I don't know 86 time frame or something. That's where I thought probably we could have a sort of new ColecoVision if it was still going around at that point. So we tried to come up with a hardware that was possible at that point in time. And I'm not going to get into the technical discussion here. We took into account things like memory bandwidth and all sort of things. But it's very real. I mean, our memory bandwidth is basically the same as the master system. We're just using things in a different way. We're doing some optimizations that the NES had, but the master system didn't have. So we combine a lot of different things, and I know. I hope we got a hardware that's a very I'd say very unique, but it has a best of many worlds. Um, okay, I didn't even think of the PC Engine as a jump. Yeah, I mean, the PC Engine, I'm not super familiar. I know the PC Engine can put 6 4 sprites on screen, but I don't remember, if those sprites can be any size. Our sprites can be 16 by 16. It's kind of usual size. I don't remember if the PC Engine you can have bigger sprites, but we can handle a lot of sprites in the same scan line, and that's a good thing. Um, and another advantage we have compared to the PC Engine is that we can have two independent background planes. Although, when you have that, you can only have 3 colors per tile, which is less the PC Engine offers. So you see, it's a trade-off that we try to find um, to get sort of features we needed, but not come up with ridiculously insane hardware that has nothing to do with ColecoVision, like 16-bit level with insane memory bandwidth or anything like that. Again, this is the same memory bandwidth that the master system, which means that less memory bandwidth than and when I say memory, I have video memory bandwidth, less than the PC Engine. But I think for the ColecoVision, it made sense. Okay. All right. Let's see what else. Okay. Yes. Yeah. I mean, again, uh, just a second. Hi, boys. You okay?
Hi again.
Hi. Hi, Luke.
Okay,
My kids.
Hi
Hi.
again.
Hi.
I'm okay,
You want to say hi?
Hi
Yeah?
again.
Okay. All right. Hi.
Okay then. Hi again.
Hi again. You guys back. Nice.
I'm okay.
All right. What is Chagra?
I'm okay. Okay.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, guys.
Washing water.
Sorry about that. The kids just arrived. Sorry for the interruption. So let's get back. Yeah. So yeah, be careful about the PC Engine thing. Okay. I think I made clear that it's somewhere in between those two, right? Um, I had the RF removed, and I had composite put in. With this effect, no problem there, because again, when you plug in the Super Game Module 2, you get HDMI, and actually that's the only thing you get. Okay, you can no longer use any other the outputs in your console unless you unplug the Super Game Module 2. Again, why is that the case? Because we don't have space here to have analog, to convert the digital output to analog, to send it back to the console. It's a trade-off the size of this expansion, right? So that's the reason. Okay, I believe it's fine. Oh, that's not a question. I think someone is answered some question. I believe it's fine that way, but depending on your RGB mod, if you have one, it may not work. Yes, as I said, if you have RGB, you cannot use that unless you unplug the Super Game Module 2. All right. Okay, let's see. Maybe one more game. How about this one? People love this one. Some of those games, I'm gonna tell you something now. Some of those games, and this is one of them. A couple years ago, before the pandemic, during the pandemic, actually, when you start working on the Super Game Module 2, actually, I created, versions, Super Game Module 2 versions of some of those games. This is one of them. Okay, this game had better sprites, much better sound. Sound is really close to the arcade, but this is the regular version that we sell. Okay, let's see. Oh, okay, looks good. All right, let's put some credits. Let's go. I'm playing the Japanese version, which means that, if I stay here, I'm safe. Which I think makes more sense, considering that this is stage 1. Anyways. And there you go. So again, I don't have flickering here. There you go. Oops. Uh-oh. I have another question I just thought of. Will Atari's... I can answer that in a minute. But if it is what I think it is, no. It's just ColecoVision ROMs. We're not emulating the Atari expansion module, no. Although we are using an FPGA, this is not a multi-core system, because we don't have some of the, as I understand, we don't have some of the hardware we would need for that. You need some sort of controller to actually load the different cores and stuff like. I'm in trouble. To different cores and stuff like that. So we don't have that. It's a very simple system. So it's a single core and it's only Super Game Module 2. Let's see if you can finish this time. Let's see. Maybe if I use the hammer here, let's see. Of course. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I'm in trouble again. Oh, that was awesome. There you go. Right. So let's see if I have more questions. MSX conversions have been great. Yeah, I wonder if MSX2 can be ported. It could be, but it would require a lot of change because it has nothing to do with the MSX2 hardware. So MSX2 is an interesting thing because it started as a basically ColecoVision, right? Same sort of almost same chipset. Um, but then the video chip evolved in a different direction. It evolved as more or less, something that made sense for a computer, which means a lot of new bitmapped modes, very similar to PC or stuff like that. And and it's not very good for a game. I mean, they create a lot of games, and some of them look very good, but not not exactly the kind of hardware was created with games in mind. Um, One thing I would make sure to test is the call USB. I'm sure quite a bit of ColecoVision owners have this. I'm not familiar with that one, but yes, I keep that in mind. Oh, okay. Jimmy confirmed that it works with the. Okay, awesome. All right, so it's has been 1 hour, uh, and so I don't know unless you guys want to ask something else or see me playing something else. Um, I think we can stop here. Um, I I don't know. I hope I answer most of the questions. Again, I maybe someone's gonna ask when. We don't know exactly yet because we just start beta. Um, we did this pilot run of boards, and now we're doing some beta just to make sure it works. I From my testing, I know one game that doesn't. It runs, but it has a, a, a glitch. So I'm aware of one game, but we'll see. I mean, uh, the idea is to test as many games as possible. It seems to me that in terms of legacy games, everything seems to be running okay. But I don't have a huge collection of homebrews. I know I have my own games, but I don't have a huge collection of homebrews. So that's one reason why we're having this, more extensive beta with people that have access to extensive collections of homebrews. They're gonna test, as many games as they can, make sure everything works. And there's still work to be done with the UI, as I said. Um, no, we need at least a bare bone UI. Uh, to have access to SD card and online stuff. I mean, we did some very low level testing for those things. We know that they work, but um, the why still need to be created. So I don't know, especially now considering everything that's going on, with trade and stuff. I don't think it's gonna happen this year. Um, we have a lot of things in our pipeline that's late already because all the problems we had. Um, so I want to take care of those first, but I don't know. I hopefully if everything goes okay, it should be available at some point next year. Okay, and again, costs I don't know. I don't know anymore. As I said, we before this we knew that is probably was going to cost something like 150 around that range. Now I don't know anymore. It's even I don't know. We don't know what's gonna happen like 2 or 3 months from now. So I really don't know. Is there a way to sign up for beta? For the time being, it's closed. Okay. If you think there is need for an extra, we're calling this a pilot run. Um, but again, this is a very complex device. So if we think that there's need for more testing beyond the what we're doing now, we could have some sort of early access thing or something that maybe we could maybe sell for a this thing for a select number of people in a sort of on your risk terms, or I don't know. um so you guys could be uh, something in between a beta tester and a user. But you see, right now we don't have any plans for that. All right. So okay, again, if that's all, I really appreciate you guys joining today. Uh, thank you so much. I hope you also enjoy the conversation and yeah. All right. Okay. Again, thanks so much. Um, you guys have a good rest of the day or night, depending on where you are. Right. Um, okay. So sorry. There's one final question. That's actually where I got the idea. The flip drive open beta. Okay. We can talk about that. I have no idea. Never heard about this, but I don't know. Maybe we can talk about that later. You can explain to me what is that. I placed some opcode games order. When they're gonna start shipping, that depends. All right, so we have. I mean, in television, we just start shipping. We're most done now. Then we have Atari 7800. We have ColecoVision. Um, Delays happen because the trade thing. All our stuff, it's not a secret, it's produced in China. Okay. And with the trade war, things got very complicated. So we had to sort of, move stuff around, and that delayed one final piece of the puzzle for our games. That's the packages, mainly the boxes, the game boxes. But the boxes are coming now. So fingers crossed, unless we have a total shutdown to with always happen, a total shutdown, with trading with China the next month. Hopefully those boxes will be here. I guess at some point in June. Okay. So the plan is, if you have Atari 7800 orders, we're planning to ship those first because the quantity is much lower than what we have in terms of pre-orders for ColecoVision stuff. So we're gonna push those out first, perhaps in June, perhaps in July. And again, that depends on things get here. But we're gonna do our best, to ship those as fast as possible. And then the plan is to ship probably ColecoVision stuff, the games we have in pre-order, to ship those in two phases, something like that. Probably gonna ship restocks because from our ordering page you can see that we have a lot of games in back order, so we're gonna ship those. We're gonna probably ship the new color line we have coming, 3 games. We're gonna ship first probably all the re-release we have coming. That's Texter, Sky, Jaguar. Some of the games are basically re-release. And then next we're gonna ship the arcade stuff, which is more a lot more orders. So the plan is to start with Pac-Man because that has been pre-ordered for a very long time now. So we're gonna start with that, and then we should move to Ladybug because that was promised for March, and we're late. And then after Ladybug, we move to the games that are part of season 3, right? It's Turtles, Jungle King, and Popeye. So hopefully you're gonna be able to ship out those this year. And I don't know, hopefully we can also have a couple more not released this year, but start pre-orders for a couple more that we have under development. Um, a couple more arcade ports, arcade series. Um, okay, so quick question here. I remember the 2Y order was, yeah, Penguin Adventure is a re-release, so it should ship first, and then Ladybug is gonna be part of the arcade stuff. Um, is the Penguin Adventure card going to be blue? No, this time it's gonna be regular. We didn't get many orders for those, so it's gonna be regular black. Ladybug, Ladybug, I believe, if I remember, was last year. I don't remember anymore, but I think Ladybug had some special color. I don't remember. Sorry, I had to double check when we announced. I don't remember. Um, and yeah. Oh, hey Johnny. I want to thank you for the Donkey Kong arcade. My pleasure. Actually, I had a lot of fun um, making those. It was a lot of work too. It's funny because um, those are two those 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 two games are probably the two most time consuming arcade ports that I ever made. They they very time consuming, and not the gameplay part. The gameplay part, for example, Donkey Kong Jr. The gameplay was done in a month, I think. But those intermissions and stuff, oh my God, that was insane amount of work, and it's hard to explain without going through technical details. So I'm not gonna do that here, but yes, it was many months doing those things. Any plans for Dunk? Yeah, I got a lot of requests for Donkey Kong 3, but the thing is, I believe someone else already released a version of Donkey Kong 3, so I'm not sure if it's worth releasing or making that game again. Um, you see, I mean, I suppose that there are other games that I never got released for the ColecoVision before. I mean, we have done a ton of not a ton, but quite a few remakes of classic ColecoVision games, right? We did, of course, Donkey Kong Jr., Time Pilot, games that were available for the ColecoVision back in the day. But we did a new version because I particularly thought that the ColecoVision versions were not as good as they could be. Um, so that was one reason. But I don't know. I guess we get to the point where I don't want to just keep remaking stuff, right? I mean, let's get some other excuse me, arcade games that were never available before for the for the ColecoVision, right? All right. Okay. Yes. So if that's all, again, thanks so much, guys. Really, really appreciate you guys joining me tonight, or today. And I don't know. We could do this again in the future at some point. I mean, maybe if I when we have something new to show regarding Super Game Module 2 or something, right? Well, thanks again, and again, hope you guys have enjoy your rest of your night, day, uh, etc. Right? All right. Thank you. Bye.